how would you like to achieve your first million? And today we have Jason, which is the founder of Survivor Garden Seeds. So Jason, tell us, what are the 5 steps to make the first million?
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Harry, there's a lot more than just 5 steps, but I'm going to give you some good information to give people that want to learn how to do a business and give them some steps that will help them. I would say the first thing that comes to mind is your belief system. If you're not constantly feeding your mind full of good information and good books, there's lots and tons of self-help books out there, but I have a few key authors that I've followed who have mentored me. The likes of Jim Rohn and Brian Tracy, they're classics, but their stuff, you can go to a more modern one, but it's all the same stuff. They're regurgitating, they're presented it in different ways to help you. You may resonate with a Brian Tracy or a Darren Hardy or a Jim Rohn or a Tony Robbins. I personally don't resonate with all of those. I resonate with a few of them and I like their information. And so I'm constantly feeding my mind, and I take time on a regular basis. I try to do it daily to take 10 pages and read in a good book. So if I could say I was 100% consistent at this, I'd be lying. But it's always great to just be always listening. I don't listen to the radio or music when I'm driving. I'm always listening to a podcast or some type of educational material to help you grow your mind. Because knowledge is power. Without knowledge and that belief system, you can't grow to what you can't even imagine. It's a spiritual thing. You have to believe it and create it spiritually before you can create it in this world.
Wow,
So
really powerful.
that's the big thing, is just always feed your mind and always be looking to God and recognize his hand in all you do. If you think it's you that's doing it, you're not going to get very far. So yeah, I think that's step number one, or pillar number one.
Pillar number one. So
Yes.
what would be the second pillar, Jason?
You're gonna get beat up in this world. You're gonna have your ups and downs. You never give up. There's one instance where I was in my mid-20s. I had already done the business and sold it, and we were on to our second business, and I was flipping homes. And my brother-in-law and I, we had 256 units of apartments from Oklahoma to Arizona to Michigan. And I thought I was on top of the world. I'm like, this is going to be awesome. And I'm early or mid-20s. And, 2008 hit us, and we were not, we didn't go unscathed. And we were able to get out of that, but it took a lot. And it emotionally, it hit me. It hit me in not just the financial side, but emotionally and mentally. So you got to learn how to get back up off the horse that bucks you off and keep going. And it's interesting, as that happened, I was like, how am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to pay the mortgage? How am I going to get this going? I had $5 million worth of loans on my head that I was responsible for, that I was just like, okay, how am I going to make this go? Anyways, worked through it. And I was able to figure out a way to pay the bills that I thought was just going to be a short-term gig. As I figured out what I was going to do long-term, it ended up being a 15-year ride. And it was a very good ride and paid me very well. It was in the home furnishings industry, and I got into there, and we started out of our garage, and we got kicked out of our garage to go into a retail strip mall, and pretty soon we had 6 retail stores, and I sold my first ones off, and I started some up I moved from down south up north, started another one, and it was a good ride. And a couple of years ago, it wasn't my passion. My passion is building businesses and creating systems and implementing them to help people go. And part of that building systems is a financial literacy. My background is historically, I went to school, I got my accounting degree and became a CPA. I went to work for an accounting firm, Ernst & Young. And it wasn't my cup of tea, but it was the financial literacy in there has helped me immensely in my background. So I think that you call that another pillar is financial literacy. Do you have to go get a CPA or go to formal schooling to get that? No, there's lots of ways that you can learn. That's that constantly feeding your mind. If you're not feeding your mind and you're like, well, I'm too late in life. I'm not going to go to school. I'm not going to go be a CPA or an accountant or a finance person. You don't need to. Just go start reading. There's lots of information out there. Feed your mind with that. The financial literacy is a huge part of, I would say, of my success is we've grown business from scratch, sold them, even before I did the apartments, while I was in college, I went out and did door-to-door sales. I feel like if you can learn how to sell, you can do anything. That's when I was introduced to Brian Tracy. And and one of my first books that I remember is Og Mandino, The Greatest Salesman in the World. And that was my little Bible. And then I found The Psychology of Selling by Brian Tracy. And I would be
It's
driving around.
amazing, Brian Tracy. Yeah, I
Yeah,
listened to him a lot. Yeah,
yeah. He's
long time
he's a
ago.
killer.
Yeah,
I met
brilliant.
him in person once, and he was a great mentor to me. But if you can learn how to sell, I was doing door-to-door sales, which was hard, but I succeeded at it and I did very well. And I'm going to back up clear to my childhood and say, what makes you a good salesman? It's learning how to get out of your comfort zone. If you can't get out of your comfort zone, you're never going to become a great salesperson. Quick story. So when I was 8 years old, my father took me around. I was in the Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, and he took me around and had me go to all the neighbors and sell them these Scoutorama tickets. And I was the best seller of that. And I'm like, well, how did that happen? My dad was not a salesman, but he inspired in me to get out of my comfort zone. We would grow a garden as a kid, and we'd grow these big old pumpkins and big old watermelons. And what happened is my dad's like, hey, you need to save money for college and for your mission. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and we go on missions when we're 19 years old. And so I said, okay, we're going to start. So we grew these big watermelons. And in order to save money for them, I go to the neighbors before in the springtime and say, hey, will you pledge to put so much per pound for a watermelon that I'm going to deliver you in 3 or 4 months? That was embarrassing to me as a kid. But my dad taught me, hey, he put me into these situations and helped me grow and get through them, that I learned to do uncomfortable things, whether it's getting neighbors pledges for these watermelons, whether it's going to Scoutorama tickets as an 8-year-old Cub Scout and doing that. And then when
You have to be able to deal with rejection, right? Which is
rejection.
really hard when people say no, and you cannot make it personally. You have to move on, right?
Yeah. And then after I graduated high school, I went on a mission for my church, and I learned a lot about rejection at that point in time in South America. And I came home and I did door-to-door sales, which is even more rejection. But it was a numbers game, and the more doors you pound, and if I'm running between doors, and I did really well. I was one of the top salesmen first year. I started my own business.
Wow.
Actually, no, the third year I started my own business. Second year as a team lead, and third year we started our own marketing company and the service business, and we did that while I was in college. And
Wow.
actually hired my parents to be the office work and do the technical, out in the field. And we hired other employees, and I found an investor, which was my brother-in-law, and we just made it go. And that I remember after the first year doing that, my friend who I had sold for the first year, he's like, hey, come do this. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I hated it. He's like, well, where else are you going to make that type of money? I'm like, well, you're right. As a 22 or a 21-year-old kid, let's go do it. And so I just dove into it, and background of getting out of my comfort zone, learning how to sell, and it put all the confidence in me that I could do anything I wanted in this world. I don't care if I'm competing against a Harvard educated person or Yale or these big Ivy League universities. It doesn't matter. They're no smarter than me. It's how hard they can work and how there's the intelligence in this, but having that financial literacy and that ability to sell was a huge part of my foundation, I think, in the business world. And that was my very first, I can't say it's my first business, because as a teenager I had lawn mowing businesses and I was a paper boy, which was my own business, and all those type of things. But that after graduating high school, doing that the service business and starting that was awesome. Gave me tons of confidence, and from there we've done lots of different things.
So Jason, the third pillar would be learn how to sell then.
Yeah, absolutely. Learn how to sell.
I love it. Yeah, really powerful. And you're 100% right. Learn how to get uncomfortable and learn how to sell and for it and learn how to deal with right? Because at the end of
Absolutely.
the day, this is part of this. It comes with the job. If you want to be in business, you want to be an entrepreneur. Couple of more pillars, Jason.
Okay. The other thing is, as you're getting into business and doing this, you've got to take, it's easy to work 18 hours a day. At least it is for me. If you're not taking that self-care and taking breaks, you got to slow down to speed up. That self-care is huge. The things that I like to do, I like to go mountain biking. I like to hike. Those are things I hate going to a gym. It's not me. It's just not the way I'm built.
Me
But
too. By the way, I'm that one. I hate it. Yeah, just for clarification.
But morning, it was I woke up, it was negative 11 degrees outside. Am I gonna go out mountain biking or hiking in this weather? No. I have a little app on my phone. I did a 20-minute workout and got me sweating, got my stuff moving. So self-care is huge, whether it's exercise, I try to do lots of different things, not just physically, but nutritionally. I try to eat well, try to keep off sugars. I'm not perfect at it. Um, I meditate every day for 20 minutes, which is huge. I do my personal study in other books, scripture and other books. And that self-care, if you're not feeding your mind continually, I'm 48 and I'm like, holy cow, I'm almost pushing 50. I just think if I had done this consistently from when I was 18, I'd be so much better but I feel very
Absolutely.
fortunate to have done what I have done to help me have grown to where I'm at now. And the crazy thing is selling a couple businesses and getting to the point where like, oh, okay, I understand the language of business. Focus. I've always had these shiny object syndromes out there. I'm like, oh, hey, I can do this. Well, I got this business who's making me all this money. Well, I can do this, this, and this, and this. There's guys out there that do it. I'm not saying you can't, but for me personally, when I focus on one business and put 100% effort into it, I will grow that business a lot faster and scale it way better than you can when you have multiple. And it's kind of a fallacy, that whole Robert Kiyosaki, multiple streams of income, and Bob Proctor, all those guys. I've studied all of them, guys. It's not, but you have to get to a
You
certain
have to
level and have
keep it
teams
tight.
in
You
place.
have to keep it tight and
Yeah.
consistent. And it is working. Keep it tight
Hmm.
and keep doing the same thing because there's a lot of shiny objects out there, and it's very easy to find a new shiny object, and then you lose attention from what actually is working, right?
Absolutely. Prime
Mhm.
example, the business I just sold in January of 23 is it was a very good business, provided a great living for me and my family. I sold to one of my third employee that I ever had in that business. He stayed with me for 15 years. I ended up selling it to him, got him set up where he could succeed, and we had systems in place. But the whole time I was doing that, I had other businesses out there that I was doing, messing on the side. When I turned it over to this guy who was my general manager, and he was running it for me while I was off doing my other things, but when he had a full reins, he's grown it faster and done things that I didn't do. I'm like, wow, and I'm so excited for him because
Wow.
he's got his blinders on. I taught him from the time he was 18 years old till 32 to how to do this, and he's seen at it, but he's never done anything else. I had to teach him financial literacy. I had to teach him all the different steps in business, but he got there, and now that he's 100% focused, he's crushing it. Well, I jumped to another business that I had started during this whole time I was doing it, and it's crushing it. But I have put my blinders on, and it's exciting because we're in a production facility, and we do things, we sell them to gardeners, and the neatest thing is I've been able to get into Walmart because I knew how to sell. I had financial literacy. I was able to
Wow.
get out of my comfort zone. I was able
Wow.
to do a lot of things that
You're
I
selling
have.
product to Walmart. That's big, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. This is our first year doing it,
Wow.
but we're in 3,600 stores and it's really exciting. Plus, we're on Amazon and our own website, Walmart.com. And I'm not in any other retail besides some small mom and pops. But I'm like, if I can get figured out Walmart, now I'm in the process of studying and hiring other mentors. I've always had a mentor. There's the fourth thing: have a mentor to teach you and pay for your mentors. Don't expect free mentorship. If you can't put 10% of your money, of your earnings back into yourself, you're not going to grow. So right now I have two different coaches. One is on the business side and one is on the production side. Because I've never ran a production facility, but I've got one going, and I just hired a guy, and he's helping me get things so we can put an ERP system in place and all these different things. And so you don't know what you don't know. So you go hire that and have them mentor you, or just bring them on to do it. And you don't have to be the one implementing. You don't have to become the production facility expert, but you just need to understand it and let them do their thing. And I really believe mentorship is huge, investing in yourself, and that goes back to the self-care. So what else can I help you tell some of your audience here? I think
The well, we talk about this like how you deal with negative emotions. Telling you that because my first business in property, we sold over 5 million. I was very young. I resonate a lot with your story as well. And then you making millions, and you think that you big deal, and you're the king of the world, yeah. And you're young with no experience, and then I was have my property business was doing amazing, but then I opened an English school, and we were doing career advice services, and then I decided to open a restaurant, and then this restaurant it took I lost 2 years of my life, over 200,000 pounds, and almost collapsed my other businesses because I was literally my property business was running in autopilot. Everything was taken care by the managers and everything. So I have all the time in the world. But what I did is I choose a business that I didn't have any experience, that I didn't have any. I was kind of passionate. I thought that I like it. Now I can tell you, after 2 years down the line, I don't like. I learned what I don't like and what I don't want, because I don't want to be in a business that I had to be from Monday to Sunday there for 2 years of my life. I couldn't see my family, I couldn't see trying to make this thing work. It never worked. It failed, and with the business failure, it came the money that I lost. I lost my girlfriend back of the day. So it created this. So now you have this emotional pain, and you have to get yourself back up. Yeah. So how you make this transition, and then you bring yourself back up again and put yourself emotionally back on track.
so when 2008 hit, yeah, we had apartment units, and we basically lost all of them. And I had to do, I did not file bankruptcy immediately because I didn't want to make everybody whole. So I took from my other businesses and was paying all the other people off and making sure that they were okay. But how I got back on track is, businesses can be ruthless, but you don't have to be ruthless. You can be kind to people and take care of people. And if you will take care of people and make sure that they're not out, the people who lost from when we went down in 2008 was Fannie Mae. They're the only person in everything that happened that lost any money that I was involved with. But they already got their insurance bailouts, and they told me to file bankruptcy right away. I'm like, I don't want to file bankruptcy. So it took me from 2008 till 2017 to get that off my back. And I paid everybody off but Fannie Mae. And eventually they would not settle for a reasonable amount. So I filed bankruptcy in 2017. And that was hard. But in the meantime, I had started these other businesses, or this other business, in my wife's name, and she was not on the other. So when we filed bankruptcy, yes, it hurt. And I played small from 2008 to 2017 in fear that they were going to come get it from me. And I lost the opportunity for so many things to do because I was playing small. I had a good business that paid for our bills and was doing, was putting some good retirement stuff apart, but you just need to have a contingency plan too. As you are having your business, if you're leveraging yourself a ton, I know guys that have made killings of it, have leveraged themselves. I don't go there anymore. I will use leverage on a very limited basis to buy a property, but I won't do it like I did in the property business. And that's contrary to a lot of people. That's contrary to Robert Kiyosaki. It's more in line with Dave Ramsey, you know, live like you've never lived so you can live like you've never lived. And it's interesting as we're having lots of success with the current business we're in. Yes, I have leveraged. I bought in buildings. I've done things, but I've done it smartly. I haven't over leveraged. And I think the thing is treat with kindness, be fair and honest. I've seen guys that I thought were honest that when things get rough, they're not honest. And that was for me to see. Make sure your debts, things are taken care of. And and I did all I could to make sure that everybody was squarely, and paid out a lot of money that didn't have to. If I filed bankruptcy right off the bat, according and anyways, it was a
But this
lesson
define
learned.
who you are. This define who you are, and it's a different energy to you because at the end of the day, you know, this emotional pain, you know, that goes into when things go bad, and we all be there. If you've been in serial entrepreneur, we all have been in there, and we have to handle it, and we need to get ourselves back up. But that emotional pain, for example, you're talking about mountain biking. For me, it works very good to go for a walk.
Yeah,
If you don't release this emotional pain, can become a physical pain. You can end up with a heart attack. You can end up with people. How many people have millions and they die out of the heart attack? And I understood. I get it because I'm in property business. So you know when you lose all your money from people and everything, um, it's hard to take emotionally, right? Because at the end of the day, you're responsible for that, and somehow life goes on, and somehow do have to work on yourself because you're also have a commitment to your wife, have to commitment to your family, you cannot now get depressed and say, well, this affected my life. And a lot of people commit suicide, a lot of people jump out of the bridge, a lot of people after this kind of experience they can never back up. So I think you should be very proud of yourself. Honestly, for my when I when work for me, you know, the day that I close my restaurant, I'm thinking, how the hell I'm gonna get back up? How am I gonna pay all this money? But you know what? I actually did it, and I'm not afraid anymore. I'm so peaceful. You know, think for me, I don't care if COVID comes, if it doesn't come, if the market change. I'm so confident that I can make it when I want it in my own terms. That after this experience, I'm not scared anymore. You see,
absolutely.
only took this. So probably, you know, you say, well, Harry, took me like 8 years, and you know, I'll pay the money to the people. Um, you see, you think that you're doing it for them, but actually you did it for you because that gave you a level of confidence. That look at this, you go and you knock the work on Walmart on the first year of you trading. You know what I mean?
Well, one thing that I think is if people are struggling and there's emotional charges to all the things we do in life. The practice that my wife and I started in 2018 was meditation. We went to a TM meditation class, and I for the last 3 years I've been pretty consistent. I'm right now I'm on a 146-day streak without missing a day of 20 minutes of just
Wow.
silence.
Wow, that's a lot of discipline, Jason. I cannot even do this myself. So why,
So
Jason, how you took this decision that you do have to work on yourself? When do you find out that, hey, you know, I took a big hit. We all have if we are in business. So I got a good news for you. You're not alone. If you listen this podcast, this will see that lots of people are in the same journey. Because becoming an entrepreneur is a skill. The more you practice, the better you become. And you might think, oh, this thing only happened to me. Well, I got a good news for you. It happened to everybody in
yes,
some big scale or some scale. We all been there, and big hits, and we need to get up. However, people got out in different ways. You know, people out, and they still angry and shouting to all the team members and building the business, and they still have anxious, and they don't speak with the wife or with the children because they're running the business, and that's the way that they getting to this experience. Other people, they just go numb and don't want to do business anymore, and they quit, and they become I don't know, Buddha, or they just find a job, which is this is who they are, and said they don't care anymore. I find a job, I drive an Uber, fuck it, yeah. Some people, but some people have the ability, the courage to say, okay, you know what? I took a lot of pressure. All of entrepreneurs, all of us, we I don't think out there the rest of the world are aware of the amount of pressure that us entrepreneurs we take. um, is completely different than the pressure that employees or the rest of the society take out there, because we are responsible for everything. We're responsible for our money. We're responsible for the money for the investor. We're responsible for the employees. We're responsible for the food that comes to this family, because sometimes your job is the main mean that these people can eat. So the pressure and the responsibility that we take is way higher than the normal standard. So our emotional pain is 10x, 100x higher than anyone that the rest of the people out there. But it takes courage for us to take responsibility to say, hey, you know what? I had to work on myself. I need to get back up because it's not the fault of my wife, it's not the fault of my family, and I have to keep going. So when you took that decision, I'm gonna work on myself. I'm gonna meditate. I'm gonna go for it, and I'm gonna look after my mental health.
Well, I think the self part has been there from the very beginning, but when really stressful, I mean, with business stress comes familial stress, marital stress, all of the above. And my wife and like, we've got to
Tell
do
me
something.
about it. Tell me about it.
Must.
When it goes bad,
So we both this class together in 2018 and decided, hey, if we're going to make things go in life, we've got to just do something different. And she was way more consistent than me, but because she let out and I saw changes in her, and then I'm like, okay, I can't let her, I've got to change too, because I can't make anybody happy but me. Nobody else can make me happy. It's all up to me. And now my wife, she even teaches these meditation classes and has these meditation retreats and helps all sorts of women learn these principles because they're so powerful. But you've got to acknowledge God. When we're hurt and we're down, all the businesses I've ran, I've seen God's hand in them. And if I didn't recognize that, and He's the one that can help me get back up. It's not me. It's not just meditation. It's Him. And that I think is the biggest thing is you got to recognize our Creator's hand in life. He has us in the palm of His hand. I'm not trying to get religious on you, but it's a principle. There's a being out there that helps get through the hard times and treating people with kindness. I'm a very driven personality, and it's very easy for me to just be gruff. But I've tried to surround myself with people that are better than me, and when I can take care of them and be kind to them, the whole enterprise rises. And so surrounding myself with good people, hiring right now is I only want A players. And an A player is the number one, live the core values and be able to meet the that you're setting from. It's not like in sales, it's very easy and very to just hire a great salesperson that can go. It doesn't live the core values of my company. And it's easy to say, well, he's bringing all this money in, but you know what? That sales guy is the worst thing for you. He business more than he helps you. So core values, hiring good people, recognizing God's hand. I mean, we've thrown out way more than 5 things to help people become millionaires here. But they're all and it all makes there's not a 1 through 5 steps that this is how you're going to get there. It's
But those have to be taken in consideration. Everything that
absolutely
we're discussing today.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then Jason, one more thing, yeah, and it's related. You see, 1 out of 5, one of the 6 guests that come to this podcast, 5 steps how to make the first million. They are property entrepreneur, right? And I always want to raise this. My first business was in property. We managed to sell over 5 million, but I don't want people to think to have the wrong impression. Our audience, yes, that hey, because out of 5 or 1 out of 6 people that come to Harry's podcast, they are property investors and property entrepreneurs. It's easy to become a multimillionaire in real estate. I think that is a good vehicle to make million or to become a millionaire in real estate. Yes. However, it comes with, again, you need to develop the skill. Being an entrepreneur is a skill. The more you practice, the better you become. Being a real estate investor is a skill. The more you practice, the better you become. Because hey, when you get hit in real estate, is always expensive. You see, the mistake, you have another business, you make a mistake, well, you lose a little bit of money. When you make a mistake in real estate, it's never a small money.
Right.
50,000, 60,000, 100,000, millions. That's how it goes when it goes wrong. So, what message do you have for the real estate or for people that want to be made the first million, that want to become an entrepreneur, that want to use real estate as the first vehicle to make million and to start the career as an entrepreneur? That's is actually how you started. This is actually how I started. But can we share with them the reality of the real estate business? Yeah, you can become a millionaire. Is one of the best and most powerful vehicles out there to reach that goal, if you like it, if you're passionate about. Uh, However, what are the bad things or what are the about the real estate that nobody talks about? and so everyone is aware that this is not a shiny object that we all can become millionaires really easy. You do have to do the hard work. You need to make time the due diligence. You need to have the right coach. You need to dive into this with things and be prepared because eventually, somehow, something will go wrong, and you need to have the strength to get back up again. If you have to pay the people, you have to pay the people like you did.
So one of the things I tell people is start small as you're learning. Don't go out and buy it and spend like if you have a nest egg that you're like, hey, I got this, I can go do it. Go buy one that you can learn on, and if you lose on it, you're okay. I started flipping properties in the very beginning, and I had a mentor who helped me, and he says, "Do you want me to just teach you how to do this, or do you want to do it together?" And I said, well, let's just partner and do it together. So for a long time, we partnered and we waited till we had 246 units. But he'd been doing this his whole life, and he mentored me, and we went from flipping homes, started one, then we go two, and then the last year that we flipped homes, we did 35 homes in 1 year. We flipped them. And then we started
Wow,
saying, well, if
35 homes in 1 year.
35 homes a
Wow, that's
year,
very impressive.
and then
Gosh.
we said, if we can do this, we can take it to apartments or into a multifamily. And you know what? So I did multifamily, but we learned I started small, even though my partner, my mentor, he had already had it already made. Um, Once we had done that, now what I'm doing with my money that I'm taking from my business, I don't want to put it into single family. I don't want to put it into multifamily because I'm sick of being the landlord and fixing toilets and all that stuff. I put it into commercial properties. So right now I have commercial retail strips, storage units, and these flex spaces. That's where I'm headed with mine. But I tell people you can't start
Parking
getting
spaces are good
commercial.
also, Jason, right?
Yeah, flex space is great right now.
Parking, yeah, I hear, yeah. Oh, wow.
But the thing
How you call it
is
this one, Jason? Flip spaces? What that means?
flex space. So if you
Ah,
if I just built a 12,000 square foot building that's basically a warehouse that can be divided into 2,000 up to 12,000 square feet, and people can choose, and you can use it for retail, you can use it for production, you can use it for whatever. But I didn't start there. I started small. So start small, learn the game,
100%.
and don't get, because that's where you like, hey, I can make all this money. But when you go and put it all there, you're gonna lose hard. At least that's my experience. Not everybody does. I've seen people just win and don't ever seem to lose, but I don't see their losses. I just see all the wins. So
Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing as well. Everybody talk about the wins.
yes.
Nobody never talk about one.
But I want to point something out, Harry. Before I even did real estate, I had owned a couple other businesses, and I had learned I had financial literacy before that. You know, I'm into always growing, whether it's financial. I remember when I was trying to learn about multifamily, what did I do? I went and bought these books, and they showed me these things, and I built these complicated spreadsheets to figure cap rates and all the different things, and that go in and evaluating a deal. And I didn't just take their spreadsheet. I'm like, no, I want to understand this. So I reverse engineered it so I could understand how all the numbers worked versus just putting it in somebody's spreadsheet and say, okay, well, here's your measured on. So back to starting small, understand the financial literacy behind it. Don't just do it because somebody says, hey, you can make $1 million or there's a new course. There's always courses. I just saw it today in my Facebook feed, somebody locally teaching somebody. I'm not saying they're bad. You need to invest in these courses, but make sure you understand them before you just go do.
Jason, so tell us a little bit more about commercial property because, like with all the experience that you have in single family, multifamily, being a landlord, and why you gave all this knowledge, all this expertise up, something that you know very well how it works and how you can sustainable, make a decent income out of this. And now you go to a new field, which is commercial, which is again, you need to start from zero to learn from zero because commercial, same thing. It goes wrong and you cannot rent
Yeah.
it or you cannot sell it. Oh boy, we are.
So my commercial started. So as I was running these retail stores, I had 6 retail stores, and I was leasing from these landlords, these strip malls, saying I pay them 3, 5, 6 grand a month. I'm paying their mortgage, and I'm not getting any equity. I'm just paying. And I did that for 15 years in multiple
Wow.
locations.
Wow.
And as I was moving out of one location, I talked to that landlord in the very beginning. He's an awesome guy. And I says, "Hey, would you sell this?" He's like, "No, I'm not ready to sell." Well, 15 years later, as I'm moving to a new location, maybe it was 12 years later, but anyways, it was a long time. I'm moving to a new location. I asked him, "Hey, you ready to sell yet?" And he's like, "Actually, yeah." And it would, to me, it's like, if you're gonna have a retail space, you might as well just own the dirt, own the building instead.
Absolutely.
So I learned commercial from being a tenant for in
Mm-hmm.
multiple
Mm-hmm.
landlords multiple times, and I saw how some landlords ran it, and I saw, and they were ruthless and very tight with everything. And other landlords were loosey goosey, and I liked the loosey goosey ones, but they made less money than the other ones. And I'll tell you, so I observed this from it being a tenant and trying to get into commercial. And this guy, he worked with us. It was a great deal. I mean, we had 7 retail units and 65 something storage units, and that just right out of the gate, I'm like, why would I ever go back to single family or even multi when I can have this? And then I started learning about flex space, which is basically just a warehouse that you can break up and lease to in 1,500 square foot or as large as 12,000 square feet. And it just makes way more sense. But you have to have money to get involved in them.
Yeah. But Jason, that the warehouse has to be in a key position so people can rent it as a commercial, right?
Right. Absolutely.
I commercial, Jason, for me, I love it. I tell you why, because I think, you see, if I go commercial space, I'm thinking, well, because I have the skills as an entrepreneur. If I don't rent it, I put any business, I make it work myself. I pay my own rent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
I mean, that's what I'm doing right now. I rent half
yeah,
the
yeah,
building for myself.
exactly. If it goes to worse, you know that if something goes wrong, yeah, okay, you know what? I own this commercial space. Well, probably the location is not good. Probably I'm not much money on the side projected. You know what? I use it for myself. To my own business. So in order to have this strategy, you have to have a backup plan. You need to know how to run a business. You need to know how to sell. You need to know how to run a store. Yeah, and know how to sell. Know about product margins. Know about this dynamic. But if you do have this skill, wow, commercial probably will be amazing because you rent it for good money. And if it's not, you can put a product and put in a name, a brand, and use it for yourself, right?
Absolutely.
Look at McDonald's, they thought that they were in the burger business and then find out finally that they were in the real estate business.
Real estate business. Yeah.
There you go.
Absolutely.
So, Jason, thank you so much. If somebody want to know more about your product environment, about your companies, about what you do, how people can find you, how this process works, what's the name of your
So
website?
our website is survivalgardenseeds.com, and we empower people to become self-reliant through teaching gardening. We started this right in the middle of COVID, when the supply chain was short and people were like, "Hey, I'm nervous about food supply." So I grew up as a gardener. I mean, my dad was a school teacher. There were 9 kids. That was just the way of life. And so my brother and I in COVID, we started this together. I bought him out last year, and it's been great. And love about this business is I love it because I know I'm helping another human being become more self-reliant and become, not everybody knows how to grow a garden. And it's a skill, but it's a necessary skill, whether you live in an apartment building or whether you live out in a rural area where you can do a big old farm. It's being able to be self-reliant on yourself and not have to rely on the current food chain and food supply is very heartwarming to know that, hey, me and my could get along fine, or at least supplement. So survivalgardenseeds.com. We're on our website, we're on Amazon, we're in Walmart stores, not all of them, but we're in a bunch of them. And that you can see our whole product line on survivalgardenseeds.com. Thank you, Harry, for taking the time with me today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for joining the podcast. And I think we share a lot of valuable information for our audience. Thank you so much, Jason, being so kind to be here sharing with us. And for all of you following the broadcast, see you in our next episode of Unstoppable. How a brave entrepreneur like Jason break that wall and achieve the first million. Bye for now.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.